Hello and welcome to Prateek Chess Videos.
Hello Chestnuts, today we are going to see a game between Nezmetdinov and Chernikov from 1962. Let's start the game. The game started e4, c5, knight to c3, and then what happened? Yes sir, we played after knight to c3. Actually, close Sicilian was a good option, but in the game was played knight to f3. This is the open Sicilian or the main line of Sicilian, as some people prefer to call it. Okay, so after knight f3 comes knight c6, and after knight c6 comes the move d4, c into d4, knight into d4, and now it reaches the position of the main uh, Sicilian. Okay, after knight into d4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, bishop to e3, knight to f6, bishop to c4, short castle, bishop to b3. This is one of the main lines, and now black plays knight to g4. Black uses a tactic that if you take on g4, then knight into d4, and this is one of the lines here, and then queen h4 is played. White wants to get away from the rays of this bishop. So after queen h4 comes d6, and after d6 here comes the move short castle. So okay, let's analyze the position after queen h4. This position is quite a bit complicated. Black has a knight on d4, white has the bishop pair. White hasn't castled yet. It's an interesting position overall. So queen a5, short castle. Now if you take queen into e7, here the c3 knight has problems after c into knight into b3, c into b3, bishop into c3 check, b into c3, queen into c3 check. Now short castle was played, and now comes the move bishop to f6, offering a kind of interesting offer. Here thing is that if you here play queen to f4, logical move, you get the setback queen into c3. Tactical shot, b into c3, knight e2 check, king h1, knight into f4, bishop into f4, bishop into c3, and I am a pawn up. And here if you play queen to h3, you get d5. Now that's 2 already. Queen to g4 falls for same d5. Now if you play queen to g3, now after queen to g3 there's the same queen into c3 trick, and now and now we win a pawn again. black wins a pawn again. So here, as we can see, the only move is to play queen to h6. As long as we see it, if you play queen to h6, here black's offer kicks in. Black wants to play bishop g7. Now you cannot go to g5 queen. You cannot, actually, if you go to g5, then we get knight into b3, or queen into g5, knight into b3, so it will be equal position. And if you play queen h4, then bishop h6 and then repetition. So that's why in the game here you should pause the video and think what should you do. Okay, now it was, if you saw white's move and then black's move too, it would be very amazing, because here we play queen into f6. Now queen into f6, brilliant, magnificent shot. Okay, I hope you saw this move. And now can you see black's counter to it? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0. Time's over, knight to e2 check. Okay, kind of a tactical shot. Now knight into e2 has to be taken. If you play king h1, then I play into f6 and knight into e2. You just practically wasted a move. So knight into e2 and now e into f6. Now you might think, what is the need of knight e2 check? Why can't we play e into f6 after it? Now bishop into d4, and now you lose your g5 pawn. And white's almost winning. See here, d4, d6 is proposed, and knight d5, rook to d8, knight into f6 check, king g7, and now uh, knight f4 is played, bishop e6 f5, bishop into b3, a into b3, and now this reaches an unclear position. But in the game, knight e2 check was played, but e into f6 is mm, worse than knight e2 check. So knight e2 check is a good move. Knight into e2, e into f6. Now we first play knight c3 with the idea of knight d5 attacking on the pawn, followed by bishop to d4. Now rook to e8. Black brings the rook in with an idea of rook to e6 to defend the pawn. Knight d5, and now rook to e6 as planned. Now here comes bishop to d4, and now king to g7. Well, now after king to g7, this position is quite eh, difficult for black. Even though the engine says it's 0-0, it's still quite difficult, because white pieces are getting in like literally water, because rook a d1 is played, rook d3, rook f3, and now f6 pawn is in grave danger. So rook a d1, now d6, rook d3, threatening the move rook to f3, and now bishop to d7, rook to, and now this is an interesting position to think about, because here after bishop to d7, here comes the move rook to f3, and now this f6 pawn is almost lost. That's way too much clear that this f6 pawn is completely lost now. So after rook to f3 comes bishop to b5. Very clear. Attacking the bishop, sorry, rook. And now comes knight into f6. It is really a blow. And now first things first, bishop e2 was played in the game. If you play bishop into f1, what is the move? Pause the video and think. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go, time's up. Okay, so the move is the unexpected. Knight to g4 check, king to f8, and just bishop into e6. And now there's way too much material for a queen, because king e7, bishop d5. Now you inevitably lose the f7 pawn. Then we play h3, looking very dangerous, but it isn't that dangerous. King h2, bishop into d5 takes. We have a bishop, knight, and two pawns versus a queen. Plus we have activity, and here we can uh, play rook into h7, gaining one further pawn. And now white will slowly and steadily consolidate over his advantage. See, as we can see, white has 4 pawns off now. If we get in a little more, okay, the game might be a draw, but still it will be under white's favor. So bishop into f1 is made by knight g4 check. So bishop to e2. But now after bishop to e2 comes this interesting move, bishop to c3, and it indeed was played in the game. But before this knight into f6 drama, first white played bishop to c3, queen d8, and now knight into f6. Okay, so now knight into f6, and now after bishop c3, queen d8, knight into f6, it's very good, because now if bishop e2, bishop e2 was played, if bishop into f1, then there's this simple move, knight g4 check. Glad if you saw that. King f8, and now bishop into e6. Here rook into f7 check, and then knight f6 is inevitable. Now here we take, 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 king into f1, and we have way too much material for a rook, because we have two pieces plus two pawns for one rook. So knight into f6, bishop to e2, and now in the game was played this move. Yes sir, what is it? Okay, one choice is rook to h3, but in the game was played knight into h7 check. Tactical shot. King to g8, and now just rook to h3. And now it may seem like we are losing a rook, but in really we are not, because now you need to pause the video and think what should you do here. Okay, now we play knight to g5. Boom, bam. Rook h8 checkmate is coming now. If you play rook to e5, then it's of no avail against the mighty knight into f7. So king f8, I pleasantly take your queen. I take your one rook, that might seem, but I just take your bishop, and your rook is completely trapped. So rook c8 takes, and I have two bishops, two pawns versus the rook. This is completely winning. So knight g5, rook e5 was not played in the game. Bishop into f1 was not played. Rook e5 was played. And now after rook to e5 comes f4, attacking move. And now this diagonal, this file, this pawn and this knight. It's just game over. Too many pieces. Too many pieces are attacking now. Bishop into f1, king into f1, just calmly taking the pawn. Although black has a queen and a rook, white has three pieces, two bishops and one knight plus two pawns versus a queen and a knight. So that's why black has only a lead of 3 points, and plus uh, black is going to have a loss of one rook at least, because rook c8, and now black sets up a cunning trick. Black's trick is that if you play f into e5 here, black somehow wants to play rook into c3 here. At least I mean that if you play something like knight g5 or things, black wants to play like rook into c3, and now I take your very important bishop, and now suddenly the game is equal. So rook into c3 is black's idea, and well, Nezmetdinov, oh my god, too many N's. So Nezmetdinov plays bishop to d4, just consolidating, and now on b5, I don't know what plan is it. So b5 with the threat of rook to c4, interesting idea, giving the exchange for the c4 for the bishop. All right, so giving the exchange for the bishop so that the game could be saved. But after b5, just knight to g5, and now it's too late to do anything, because now it's rook c7. And now can you pause the video and think the final shot of the game? Yes sir, I hope you will. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, the shot is bishop into f7 check, and now the game is lost, because here after bishop into f7 check, we place rook into f7, and now rook to h8 check. These two shots decide the game. King into h8, knight into f7 check, king g7, knight into d8, I mean king to h7, knight into d8. Now rook into e4, knight to c6, defending the bishop. Rook into f4 check, king e2, black resigned, because white takes one more pawn here on a7, and white already has one pawn against a rook. White has one pawn and two and one knight and one bishop against a rook, and white is going to win another. So this position is falling apart for black. Okay, this is the end of the game. This was a brilliant attacking game by Nezmetdinov. Everything started here with this brilliant sacrifice, queen into f6. Only move to like get the thrill going. Now knight c3, knight d5 was coming. All the pieces gather around, and then this and then white sacrifice another rook, and now all of a sudden here uh, this tactical shot came with bishop into f7, rook h8, and it was all over. So this was the amazing game. I hope you like this video, and don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you.